Song Ji-hun steps out of the airport terminal, his expression set with grim determination. He's made his decision. He will confront the front man and uncover the truth about the games. As he strides through the bustling crowds, Ji-hun pauses, sensing he's being monitored. Reaching behind his ear, he discovers a small implant. Without hesitation, he pulls it out and tosses it aside, severing their connection to him elsewhere. Hwang Jun-ho is revealed to have survived his fall from the cliff bruised and battered. He slowly makes his way back to civilization despite his injuries. Jun-ho refuses to let go of his mission to expose the organization. He quietly begins investigating, driven by the secrets he uncovered before his near-death experience. 2 years later, Ji-hun has partnered with Kim, his former loan shark, to track down the recruiter who lures players into the deadly games. They're joined by Choi Woo-suk, one of Kim's trusted associates, and together they scour Seoul for clues. Their search eventually leads them to a mysterious man in a sharp suit working in the city streets. The recruiter's methods are disturbingly cruel. Kim and Woo-suk watch from the shadows as he approaches homeless individuals, offering them a choice: bread or a lottery ticket. Most take the ticket, desperate for a chance at a better life. However, the tickets are all losing ones, and when someone chooses the bread instead, the recruiter angrily destroys it in front of them. The sinister display fuels Kim and Woo-suk's anger as they continue to tail him. Their pursuit doesn't go unnoticed. The recruiter senses he's being followed and quickly turns the tables. Kim and Woo-suk are ambushed and wake up in a dimly lit room. Bound to chairs, a revolver and a deck of cards sit ominously on a nearby table. The recruiter explains his sadistic game, a twisted combination of rock paper scissors and Russian roulette. The game begins under immense pressure. Kim and Woo-suk exchange nervous glances, knowing their lives are on the line. The revolver's clicks echo in the silence as each round becomes more intense. Woo-suk hesitates, making a crucial mistake, and Kim steps in to take the fall. In a selfless act, Kim forfeits his life to save his friend, his death leaving Woo-suk shaken and guilt-ridden. Meanwhile, Jun-ho's investigation leads him to cross paths with Ji-hun. Their meeting is tense but fortuitous. Jun-ho realizes that Ji-hun's knowledge and determination are key to taking down the organization. The two men form an uneasy alliance, combining their resources to strike at the heart of the games. The recruiter, however, isn't finished. He tracks Ji-hun to his base of operations, a dingy motel room filled with maps, documents, and photos connected to the games. The recruiter confronts Ji-hun directly, revealing his own dark history. Once a participant in the games, he was forced to kill his own father to survive. His actions have left him cold and detached, justifying the games as necessary to expose the true nature of humanity. The confrontation escalates when the recruiter challenges Ji-hun to a deadly game of Russian roulette. The tension is unbearable as the revolver is loaded and spun. Ji-hun's resolve is tested as he faces off against a man who represents everything he despises. In a climactic moment, Ji-hun wins the game. The recruiter, true to his warped sense of honor, accepts his defeat and takes his own life. The sound of the gunshot leaves Ji-hun standing alone in the room, shaken but resolute. In the end, Ji-hun and Jun-ho regroup, their shared mission clearer than ever. The recruiter's death is a victory, but they both know it's only the beginning. The shadowy organization behind the games is still out there, and their battle is far from over. They unite to unravel the mysteries behind the deadly games. Their mission picks up momentum when they discover a critical clue hidden in the recruiter's jacket, a Halloween party invitation with ties to the organization. Recognizing this as their best lead yet, realizing this is their best chance to infiltrate the network, they devise a risky plan. Woo-suk calls in a group of trusted mercenaries to assist, emphasizing the need for precision and secrecy. Ji-hun agrees to implant a tiny tracker inside his mouth, a clever safety measure in case the team loses track of him during the mission. The tension is palpable as the trio prepares to enter enemy territory. Amid their preparations, the episode slows down to highlight Ji-hun's personal struggles. He continues to care for Sang-woo's mother, visiting her regularly to ensure she doesn't feel abandoned. Ji-hun also takes responsibility for Cheol, a young boy he rescued from the chaos of the previous games. Determined to reunite Cheol with his mother in North Korea, Ji-hun seeks help from a broker who specializes in clandestine crossings. The emotional weight of these scenes grows heavier as Ji-hun, unable to speak directly to his estranged daughter, places a silent phone call just to hear her voice. These moments deepen Ji-hun's character, reminding us of his humanity amidst the horrors of the games. The night of the Halloween party arrives, and the team heads to Club HDH, a massive, neon-lit venue, teeming with costumed partygoers. The atmosphere is electric, with loud music, flashing lights, and masked figures moving through the crowd. Ji-hun and Woo-suk enter, attempting to blend in while scanning for for clues. Meanwhile, Junho and the mercenaries position themselves outside, prepared to act at a moment's notice. The camera captures the contrast between the vibrant chaos of the club and the calculated tension of the mission, heightening the suspense as Ji-hun navigates the crowded venue. Inside the club, Ji-hun is approached by a silent figure in the familiar pink jumpsuit of the game's soldiers. The soldier's gesture is simple but firm, instructing Ji-hun to follow. Sensing danger, Woo-suk attempts to stay close, but he's intercepted by another soldier who strikes with a taser, rendering him unconscious. Ji-hun, unaware of Woo-suk's predicament, is led through a series of hidden corridors within the club. Each turn heightens the tension, with Ji-hun's nervous glances revealing his growing unease. Finally, he's ushered into a white limousine parked in a secluded area behind the club. As the limousine begins to move, Ji-hun is met with the voice of the front man, transmitted through hidden speakers. The eerie, calm tone of the voice sets the stage for a tense confrontation. Ji-hun doesn't hesitate. He demands an end to the games, his voice filled with anger and determination. The front man, however, remains unshaken, mocking Ji-hun's attempts to challenge the system.
Their conversation reveals the psychological games at play, with the front man taunting Ji-hun's inability to truly understand the organization's purpose. The stakes are clear. Ji-hun is fighting an enemy far more powerful and calculated than he could have imagined. Meanwhile, Junho and the mercenaries track the limousine using the signal from Ji-hun's tracker. They follow at a safe distance, careful not to alert the organization. However, their pursuit is suddenly interrupted when armed operatives ambush them. A dramatic firefight ensues, and the mercenaries' vehicles are forced off the road. Junho is injured in the chaos, left stranded with his team. This scene underscores the brutal efficiency of the organization, showcasing its immense resources and willingness to eliminate threats without hesitation. Back in the limousine, Ji-hun realizes he's in a losing position with no other options. He makes a bold request to re-enter the games as a player. His voice is steady, his resolve clear. Ji-hun believes that by returning to the competition, he can uncover the truth and dismantle the system from within. The front man, intrigued by Ji-hun's determination, agrees. This moment marks a pivotal turning point for Ji-hun, as he willingly steps back into the deadly arena despite knowing the risks. Simultaneously, the narrative introduces Kang No-yul, a former North Korean soldier turned defector. No-yul's backstory is revealed through brief but powerful flashbacks, showing her desperate attempt to escape the North and her heartbreak at leaving her daughter behind. Now, she sees the games as her only chance to gain the resources and connections needed to rescue her child. To achieve this, No-yul infiltrates the games as a soldier, masking her true intentions behind a cold, calculated exterior. Her presence adds a new layer of complexity to the story. Song Ji-hun awakens on a metal bunk bed in a vast, fluorescent-lit dormitory, surrounded by 455 other participants. Each person is dressed in identical green tracksuits, with their assigned numbers boldly printed on their chests. Confusion and unease fill the room as people exchange nervous glances. A loud buzzer blares, and a masked manager enters. Flanked by armed guards in pink uniforms, he announces a new clause in the game. After each round, participants will vote on whether to continue. If the majority decides to quit, the massive prize money, displayed in a transparent piggy bank suspended above the dormitory, will be divided among the surviving players. This announcement sparks a mix of hope and despair, as some begin to calculate their chances while others question their decision to stay. Meanwhile, police officer Hwang Junho and his team work tirelessly to locate the mysterious island where the games are taking place. They're relying on a tracker planted on Ji-hun, but frustration mounts when they discover it has been removed. Junho's superior expresses doubts about the operation, but Junho remains determined, convinced that uncovering the truth about these deadly games will expose the organization behind them. As the team loses their lead, Junho vows to find another way to infiltrate the island, setting the stage for his relentless pursuit. Back in the dormitory, Ji-hun scans the room and is stunned to recognize player 390 as Yoongbei, a childhood friend he hasn't seen in years. Overwhelmed with a mix of relief and worry, Ji-hun approaches him. The two exchange awkward smiles, but the tension in the air makes it hard to reminisce. Ji-hun pulls Yoongbei aside and urges him to stay close during the games, stressing the importance of sticking together in such a dangerous environment. Yoongbei hesitates, unsure if he can trust even an old friend, but eventually agrees. The masked guards lead the participants into a surreal, brightly colored playground surrounded by towering walls. The game is revealed. Red light, green light. Players must cross the field without moving during red light or face elimination. Ji-hun Hun, remembering the horrors of the previous games, tries to warn those around him that elimination means death. Most players laugh off his warnings, believing the stakes are exaggerated. However, when the giant robotic doll scans the field during red light and gunshots echo through the air, panic ensues. Bodies drop as players realize the grim reality. Gi Hun freezes in terror but manages to stay calm enough to advance during green light, warning others to move carefully. Among the players is player 230, nicknamed Thanos, a notorious rapper struggling with drug addiction. His erratic behavior becomes a liability as he shoves people to the ground during red light, causing their eliminations. His actions draw sharp glares, but no one confronts him, fearing retaliation. As the game progresses, Thanos's desperation grows, and his recklessness adds to the chaos, leaving players questioning whether the games or their fellow contestants pose the greater threat. Gi Hun notices a player who has been shot but is still barely alive. Along with player 120, Hyunju, a young woman with a fiery determination, he rushes to help the wounded man. They attempt to shield him from the guards, hoping he can be saved. After the game ends, however, their act of kindness is brutally interrupted when No Yul, a cold and calculating guard, executes the injured player without hesitation. The group watches in horror as No Yul coldly declares, "No exceptions," a chilling reminder of the game's merciless rules. After surviving the first game, the shaken players return to the dormitory. The masked manager announces the first voting session, reminding everyone of the new clause. Gi Hun steps forward, passionately pleading with the group to vote for freedom. He reveals he won the previous iteration of the games but lost everything despite the prize money. His story strikes a chord with some players, while others dismiss it as a desperate ploy. The tension in the room is palpable as players step up to cast their votes. The votes are tallied, with O for continuing the games and X for leaving. The results are nearly tied, leaving the final decision to player 001, an elderly man who has remained quiet throughout. Everyone holds their breath as he slowly steps forward. Smiling enigmatically, he votes O, ensuring the games continue. Gasps and whispers ripple through the room as the players realize their fate is sealed. Gi Hun looks on, devastated, as the majority's choice condemns them all to the next deadly round. The mood in the dormitory shifts as players begin to strategize. In the dimly lit dormitory, player 001, OIL Nam, approaches Song Gi Hun with a warm smile, his frail yet charismatic presence drawing attention. Sitting beside Gi Hun, he shares a heartfelt story about his past, revealing he joined the games not for the prize money but to relive the happiness of his childhood before his terminal illness takes over. Il Nam vividly describes playing games in his neighborhood as a young boy, the laughter and the innocence of those days. Gi Hun listens intently, captivated by Il Nam's sincerity and nostalgic tales. For a moment, their dangerous surroundings fade away, replaced by a shared sense of humanity. Elsewhere in the facility, tension brews as player 333, Lee Myung-gi, finds himself cornered in a tense confrontation. Thanos, a towering figure with a menacing glare, and player 124, Namgyu, accuse him of withholding food during the last meal distribution. Their voices grow louder, drawing attention from nearby players as they threaten to make him pay. Myung-gi tries to defend himself, but his words are drowned out by the aggressors. Just as Namgyu raises his fist to strike, Il Nam appears out of nowhere, stepping between them with a calm but commanding presence. His firm voice and piercing gaze silence the chaos, diffusing the situation effortlessly. Both attackers back off, leaving Myung-gi shaken but safe in a secluded corner of the dormitory. An emotional reunion unfolds. Player 222, Kim Jun-hee, steps out from the shadows and confronts Myung-gi. To his shock, she is his ex-girlfriend, and she reveals she's pregnant. Their conversation is filled with tension as Jun-hee accuses him of abandoning her when she needed him most. Myung-gi, overwhelmed, struggles to respond but promises to protect her in the games. Their emotional exchange hints at a complicated history, but the harsh reality of their current situation leaves little room for resolution. Meanwhile, the masked soldiers, led by the enigmatic officer, are engaged in a horrifying operation behind the scenes. Inside a secret room, they harvest organs from deceased players, preparing them for sale on the black market. The officer, cold and calculating, oversees every step, ensuring efficiency and secrecy. One of the guards, No Yul, witnesses the operation and is visibly disturbed. The officer warns her to keep her eyes forward and do her job, but No Yul's conscience begins to weigh heavily on her. Detective Hwang Junho, who has infiltrated the games disguised as a guard, observes the unfolding chaos. In a brief moment of privacy, he attempts to call his superiors, desperately explaining the horrifying operations happening in the facility. However, his pleas These fall on deaf ears. Labeled as a crackpot for his far-fetched story, Junho is left to navigate the treacherous environment alone. His determination to uncover the truth unwavering. The announcement of the second game sends a ripple of uncertainty through the players. A loudspeaker blares instructions. Participants must form teams of 5 for a 6-legged pentathlon consisting of 5 traditional children's games. Dokji, Baisiakajai, Gongjai, Jejai, and Spinning Top must all be completed within a strict 5-minute time limit. Ji-hun frantically scans the room for teammates. Knowing the wrong group could spell disaster, he recruits Il-nam, Myung-ji, Junhee, and a strong yet quiet player named Sujin. Hoping their combined skills will be enough to survive as the game begins, chaos erupts. Teams struggle to synchronize their movements, their legs tied together in a 6-legged chain. The first game, Dokji, requires them to flip a paper tile by slamming another tile against it. Ji-hun's team fumbles at first, wasting precious seconds, but Il-nam surprises everyone with his precise technique, securing their first win. The second stage, Baisiakajai, involves flicking stones to knock opponents' stones off. Pressure begins to wear on them. Each second feels like a lifetime as the countdown continues. The tension is dialed up as Hyunju's team faces a daunting challenge called the 6-legged race. The players are tied together, forced to move in perfect harmony across a dangerous obstacle course. It's not just about speed but flawless coordination, as one misstep could lead to a catastrophic fall. Initially, the team struggles to sync their movements, tripping over each other as the clock ticks down. Hyunju steps up, urging her teammates to focus and match their pace, one step at a time. She yells, and slowly, the group finds their rhythm. They navigate sharp turns, slippery paths, and a nerve-wracking final leap to secure victory. The crowd erupts into cheers, and their triumph becomes a spark of hope for the other players. Inspired by Hyunju's team, other groups begin rethinking their strategies. Instead of competing as individuals, they start working together, trusting their teammates to pull through. This shift brings unexpected success. Teams on the brink of failure suddenly find new momentum. The atmosphere changes from one of fear and isolation to fleeting camaraderie as players realize that unity might be their only weapon against the game's brutal design. However, this fragile hope is overshadowed by the reality of what's at stake. Despite the brief sense of togetherness, everyone knows that alliances can crumble in an instant. Meanwhile, Ji-hun forms an alliance with Yoongbei, Junhee, and players 001 and 388, the latter introducing himself as Kang Daeho. This group, diverse in skills and personalities, quickly realizes that teamwork is their best shot at survival. During the next game, they rely on each other's strengths. Yoongbei's sharp instincts, Junhee's calm under pressure, and Ji-hun's determination to succeed. They manage to win the game, securing their place in the competition. Afterward, they share a rare moment of humanity, exchanging names as a way to bond. However, player 001 introduces himself as Oh Young-il, a name that isn't his own. This subtle deception hints at hidden motives and raises questions about how far he's willing to go to protect himself. Elsewhere, No-yul faces a terrifying confrontation. 2 soldiers involved in the organ trade, a sinister side operation within the game, corner her. They accuse her of meddling in their plans and warn her to stay out of their affairs. The encounter is tense and unsettling, highlighting the dangerous underbelly of the competition that most players remain unaware of. Shaken but undeterred, No-yul resolves to protect those she can, even if it means putting herself at risk. The episode then shifts focus to a critical vote among the players, determining whether the game should continue. Player 001 surprises everyone by advocating for an end to the games, appealing to the group's shared exhaustion and fear. Is this money worth your lives? He asks, his words echoing through the room. But despite his plea, the majority votes to continue, convinced that the prize pool is still too small to justify walking away. This decision underscores the desperation of the players, each willing to gamble their lives for a chance at wealth. Ji-hun later confides in Yoongbei, expressing doubts about whether their efforts to save everyone are even possible. He struggles with the moral weight of the choices he's made, questioning if survival in such a brutal environment is worth the cost. Yoongbei, however, reassures him, reminding Ji-hun that every small victory is a step toward redemption. Their conversation adds emotional depth to the episode, showing the psychological toll the game is taking on its participants. Meanwhile, Junho and Woo-suk, now leading a larger team of mercenaries, continue their hunt for the island where the games take place. The stakes are higher than ever as they race against time to infiltrate the mysterious operation. Their determination to expose the truth contrasts sharply with the players' struggles inside the game, creating a parallel narrative of resistance and survival. The climax arrives with the announcement of the third third game, ominously titled Mingle, players are instructed to form groups of a specific number and enter designated rooms. Players are instructed to form groups and fit themselves into rooms based on a specific number. This seemingly simple task quickly turns chaotic as alliances clash over who belongs in which room. Panic spreads as time ticks away, and players desperately scramble to secure a spot. The tension mounts when alliances are forced to split, with many participants betraying one another to survive. The air is thick with desperation, as some alliances collapse entirely, and the stakes turn deadly. Yongbei, a key member of Ji-Hun's alliance, finds himself in a harrowing situation when he witnesses player 001 commit a shocking act of violence in a desperate bid to secure a room for himself. Player 001 kills another player without hesitation. Yongbei is left shaken by the brutal reality of the competition and starts questioning the morality of those around him. This moment serves as a grim reminder of how far players are willing to go to ensure their survival after the game. Tension rise within Ji-Hun's group. He and player 001 argue over whether they should try to convince the remaining players to vote to end the games. Ji-Hun feels torn, believing the games have gone too far, but player 001 insists they stay silent, fearing it would lead to a physical altercation with others. They eventually decide to avoid confrontation, but the disagreement leaves a lingering sense of mistrust between them. The vote is announced, and the players are called upon to decide whether to continue the games or go home. Several players who previously voted in favor of continuing, including player 125, Minsu, surprise everyone by voting X to stop the games. This sudden change catches Thanos and Nam Gyu off guard, as Minsu had been subservient to them throughout the competition. The votes result in a tie, forcing the organizers to give the players a day to reflect before another round of voting. In the bathroom, tensions boil over when Thanos and Namgyu confront Minsu. Furious at his betrayal, they pressure him to change his vote back to O to ensure the games continue. Minsu appears terrified and helpless under their threats, but before they can force him to comply, other players who voted X, led by Myung-ji, step in to defend him. A heated argument quickly escalates into a violent brawl. The fight reaches its peak when Thanos begins strangling Myung-ji in a fit of rage. Desperate to save himself, Myung-ji grabs a fork from a nearby table and fatally stabs Thanos. Outside the games, Junho and his team of mercenaries make a breakthrough in their mission to locate the island. After weeks of searching, they find what appears to be a hidden entrance to the facility. However, their triumph is short-lived. As they approach the site, they trigger an explosive trap rigged to protect the location. One of the mercenaries is killed in the explosion, forcing Junho's team to retreat and regroup. This setback raises the stakes for their mission, as they realize the organizers of the games are always one step ahead. The day of reflection continues. Captain Park, a trusted member of Junho's mercenary team, is exposed as a double agent. It turns out he sabotaged their surveillance drone, preventing it from capturing crucial footage of the island. Junho confronts Park, but before he can take action, Park escapes into the shadows, leaving the team scrambling to adjust their plans. The betrayal adds a layer of tension as Junho realizes their mission is compromised. Back in the game, the aftermath of the bathroom brawl leaves the players on edge. The realization dawns on them: killing others not only eliminates competition but also increases the prize pool. This sinister revelation quickly spreads, and the atmosphere becomes even more hostile. Ji-Hun, however, stays calm and gathers a small group of ex-voters, players who want the game to end. He warns them of an impending attack by those who want to continue the game. We're not each other's enemies, he insists. The real enemy is out there, watching us tear each other apart. His plea convinces the group to avoid violence and stay hidden. That night, chaos erupts as Ji-Hun's prediction comes true. A violent massacre begins, with players ruthlessly hunting down others to raise the prize pool and shift the vote. Ji-Hun's group, hiding in a secluded area, listens in horror as the sounds of screams and fighting fill the air. They remain silent, staying out of sight until soldiers arrive to restore order. When the dust settles, the game's population has drastically dwindled, with heavy losses on both sides. Once the soldiers arrive, Ji-Hun's group sees an opportunity. They bait the soldiers into a trap, using their knowledge of the arena to their advantage. In a tense ambush, they manage to kill all but one soldier. Seizing their firearms, the surviving soldier, trembling with fear, is forced to lead them to the control room. Ji-Hun's group is now armed and ready to fight back against the game's creators, sparking the beginnings of a rebellion. As the group navigates the facility, their progress is abruptly halted. More soldiers appear, opening fire on them from multiple directions. The group fights back but soon finds themselves running out of ammunition. Daeho, tasked with retrieving more ammo from a fallen soldier, freezes under pressure. Overwhelmed by a combat stress reaction, he is unable to return to the group, leaving them vulnerable amid the chaos. Player 001 betrays the group in a shocking twist, feigning loyalty until the last moment. He turns on his allies, killing two new players and then faking his own death to avoid suspicion. The betrayal leaves Ji-hun and the remaining members of the group stunned and weakened with no ammo and their numbers dwindling. The rebellion begins to crumble. The remaining players, desperate and out of options, attempt to surrender. However, their pleas fall on deaf ears. The soldiers mercilessly execute those who give up, further emphasizing the brutal nature of the game. Ji-hun and Young-bae are among the few captured alive. Their rebellion officially crushed. It reaches its harrowing climax as Ji-hun and Young-bae are dragged to the control room. There, they are confronted by In-ho, now masked as the frontman. In a cold, calculated display of power, In-ho executes Young-bae right in front of Ji-hun. The scene is gut-wrenching, with Ji-hun screaming in despair as he watches his friend die.